Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Text number 5. It's on page 151. Nahi kaschit sanam api yatu tushyanti akarma krit karmyate iha vasha karma sava prakriti jargunai Nahi kachit sanam api yatu tashanti akarma krit kamyate hi avasha karma sava prakriti jargunai Na, nor, he, certainly, Kachit, anyone, Sanam, a moment, Api, also, Tatu, at any time, Istati, remains, Akarmakrit, without doing something. Karyate, is forced to do. He, certainly. Avashaha, helplessly. Karma, work. Sarva, all. Prakriti Jan, born of the modes of material nature. Unai, by the qualities. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This sound is okay? Can everybody hear okay? Purport. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to always be active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul. The soul is active, cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupation dictated by the illusory energy. In contact with material energy, the spiritual soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it's necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastra. If the soul is engaged in its natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. Anybody know that verse?
Vasudharmam charanam bhujam hari bhajana pakvo tapatetato yati yatrak bhava padram buddha mushikim kovat apto bhajatam sadharmata.
He is Pandit. Translation: if someone takes the Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastra or execute devotional service properly, or even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions of the purification in the Shastra, what does it avail him if he's not Krishna conscious? So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyas, or any purificatory process, is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. Altogether, Om Argyan Taramdasya, Salakaya, Sri Chaitanya Novistam, Swayam Rupa Gadamma, Vandeyam Shiyatapaganam Srigun Sri Rupam Saganjatam Sagana Sarvetam Savutam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Parasa Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapase Govisha Namaste Gaurangi Hare Vrindavaneshwari Vanchakopya Turubhyascha Evacha Agneyo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, translation again. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the mode of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So this chapter is called Karma Yoga. And the summary of this chapter: everyone must engage in some sort of activity in this material world. But actions can either bind one to this world or liberate one from it. By acting for the pleasure of the Supreme, without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma, action and reaction, and attain transcendental knowledge of the Self and the Supreme. So Bhagavad-Gita says, Isha Dvesha Samutena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarvabhutani Samoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. O Skynabharto, conqueror for all living entities, are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arising from desire and hate. So, as a spirit soul, Vivesh Rupayan Nitya Krishna Das, were the eternal servants of Krishna. And here it's saying that the soul is always active. This Krishna is telling Arjuna. Arjuna wants to go to the forest and live like a mendicant because he doesn't want to fight. But as a Kshatriya, it's his duty to fight, and because Krishna wants him to fight, he should not even hesitate to fight. But still, because in the Battle of Kurukshetra there were 640 million soldiers altogether, but Krishna took the role of the chariot driver Arjuna. And Krishna promised that he would not pick up a weapon. But still, because Krishna was on the side of Arjuna, there was no question of the Pandavas or Arjuna being defeated in the battle. But the Bhagavad-Gita, whole Bhagavad-Gita, is meant to convince Arjuna that he should fight. And if he fights or not, the battle is going to go on, and because Krishna is on Arjuna's side, it's the Pandavas or Krishna's devotees, the Pandavas are going to come out victorious. So in either case, but the Krishna wants Arjuna to get the credit, and he wants Maharaj Yudhisthira to become the king of the world. So these different verses in Bhagavad Gita are meant to inform us and meant to bring Arjuna to the finally agree that he should surrender to Krishna and fight. Sarvadharma prikjajam amekam saranam jam am tvam sarva bhaveyo mokshashami machuchaha. But so Prabhupada says here that the spirit soul, that the body is just a vehicle. If you buy a nice car and you put it on the street, it won't move. No matter what you do, if you just look at it, or if you talk to it, or you still need a driver. The car won't move unless you have a driver, unless it has remote control. But that's not usually the case. So the body is just a combination of chemicals. Material scientists say that life is just a combination of chemicals. So we say, well, if that's a fact, we'll give you all the chemicals, and you bring one tree back to life, or you bring one insect back to life, or you bring any dead body back to life. And they will say, well, we can't say right now, but in the future we will do that. So the Prabhupada said, this is like a post-dated check. I'll give you a check for $1 million. In the future, I'll pay you. So who will accept? So there's simply bluffing, saying in the future. And the scientists, they start out with all their lectures with saying, well, we don't know for sure, and maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. But they haven't come to any real conclusions. And still people consider them intelligent and give them Nobel Prize. So this is the basic understanding that Denosmin yata dehe kumaramyo vinamjara tata dehandra praptir dirashtra namuyate, that living in the soul. We have a nice exhibit. On one side we have people chanting japa upstairs. People who come to the temple, they chant one round of the Maha Mantra. They go from one flower to the next. And the other side, we have the museum with pictures of Prabhupada's activities, books, and we have the changing body exhibit, which shows how the soul, the different bodies from baby to boyhood to youth to old age and then to death. So the bodies are changing, and no scientist can stop that. They may make claims that they can stop old age, that they can stop death, they can stop disease, but they can't stop that. Can't stop anything, because it's the law of nature. The law is there. The law says you have to drive on India they drive on the left side, in America they drive on the right side. You can't change the law. You decide to drive on the wrong side of the street, you'll get a ticket or you'll get in an accident. Most likely. It's dangerous, but you can't change the law. So the scientists, they can't change the law of nature, but they're trying in many different ways by twisting the arm of nature and making all kinds of inventions which are against the laws of nature, which aren't progressive and aren't helping us in this society, which is causing more harm and more trouble in society. So the first thing one should understand is that the life cannot come from chemicals. If you take two cars, or the same kind of cars, you can't expect it's going to produce a baby car. It's not possible. Chemicals are not active, and chemicals don't have any feelings. If someone dies or leaves his body, then the relatives, everyone's very emotional. But if you say, why are you being emotional? It's only chemicals. And they say the chemicals are worth $2.50 if you take all the chemicals of the body. So why are people emotional over chemicals? And chemicals thinking, the activities of the living is thinking, feeling, and willing. Can chemicals think? Can the mind think? They say, well, we can't see the soul. If you can't see something, if you can't perceive something, then it doesn't exist. But who would say we don't have a mind, and we don't have intelligence? But you can't see it, you can't measure it, but it's there. So in the same way, the soul is there. It's like Prabhupada made this point in many times in his lecture. That you say, you point to your head. This is my head, my arm, my leg, my body. It belongs to me. So it's part of me, it's something I own. But who are you? That people don't know. That they don't know. That I'm a spirit soul. Ham Brahmasmi. So as a spirit soul, we have minute independence. And because we misuse our independence, we had a choice at one point in time, whatever what that was, we had a choice to go to the spiritual world, go to Vrindavan and serve Krishna, or come to the material world and try to enjoy like Krishna. So somehow or other, we decided that we'll come in the material world and try to enjoy. It wasn't a very good decision, but somehow we made that decision. And as soon as the living entity comes in the material world, he's covered by the false ego, ahankara. Ahankara vimudatma, prakriti kriyamanani, guna karmani sarvacha, ahankara vimudatma, kartam iti manyate. The spirit soul, under the influence of three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities which are actually carried out by nature. So as a spirit soul, when you come in the material world, we're immediately covered by the three modes, the modes of material nature. And therefore, we are forced to act. It says in Srimad Bhagavatam, no, say Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ramana Brahmate Kon, Bhagavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the higher upper planetary system. Some are going down to the lower planetary system. Among many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So, as soon as we come in the material world, we're wandering start off as Lord Brahma and go through all the 8 million, there are 8,400,000 species of life. And it's another misconception. The modern scientists say there's no life on any other planet. There's only life on this planet, and if there's life on the Mars or some other planet, it's just a very primitive form of life, like an amoeba or some germ. But we know from Srimad Bhagavatam that there's 14 planetary systems, from the 7 upper planets and 7 lower planets, and there's life on every single planet. Now they say they went to the moon. Srila Prabhupada was in London in 1969 when they were showing the moon landing on television. And one of his servant was trying to give Prabhupada a massage and watch the moon landing at the same time. So he wasn't doing it properly. And Prabhupada was chastising him because he wasn't massaging him properly. So they watched the moon landing, and when it ended, they turned off the television, and Prabhupada said they never went to the moon. Because, so Prabhupada was the only person probably in the whole world who wasn't fooled by this display, except for the people that put it on. The people that made this false propaganda. Because you can't go to the moon. They went to the moon and said it was just a barren desert. And they brought back some rocks and put them in a museum, and made people go there every day to see the moon rocks. But we know from Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, I become the moon and supply the juice of life to all vegetables. And it says the sages, people that leave their body in the dark moon night, go to the moon and live there for 10,000 years and enjoy somaras. So how can it just be a desert? Besides, the moon is farther away than the sun. Prabhupada would say, why does Sunday always come before Monday? Sunday, the sun is first, then the moon. But when we see the moon in the sky, it looks like it's closer because it's twice as big as the sun. But the moon is 93 million, the sun is 93 million miles away, and the moon is 96 million miles away. And they claim they went there in 3 days and came back and brought a few rocks and said that it's just a barren desert, and they never went back to the moon again. So we know the moon is a heavenly planet, and to go to a heavenly planet, no one can go there by any mechanical means. One time, Krishna and Arjuna were in Dwarka, and there was one Brahmin who gave birth to a child, and every time he gave birth to his child, it would die. So the Brahmin brought the child to the king Ugrasena, and accused him of not being a proper king, because the child is not supposed to die before the parents. So, after the ninth child died, Arjuna made a promise that if this 10th child is born dead, and I can't bring him back to you, then I'll enter the fire. So Krishna didn't want Arjuna to enter the fire. So Krishna and Arjuna went on the chariot. They didn't need a rocket ship. They didn't need any mechanical, they didn't have any mechanical means. But Krishna and his 4 horses took Arjuna through the covering, through the entire material world, through the covering of the universe, through the Brahma-yoti, to the abode of Lord Vishnu. And there, Lord Vishnu had made this arrangement because he wanted to see Krishna. And Arjuna went also along in his Narayan form. So this is possible for Supreme Personality Godhead. He can do anything. He's omnipotent, omniscient. But the modern scientists have no facility to go to any other planet by mechanical means, because you have to have the karma. Just like if you want to come to India, you have to have a visa. If you don't have a visa, they say, sorry, you can't come in the country. So you have to have the visa to go to the moon. And that is according to your karma or your activities in this life. So that false conception about going to the moon, even though so many people still believe it, many people have disproved it. There's so much evidence to disprove it. But even if they went to the moon, what was the value of that? Spending so much money, they can't live there, they can't go there again. So it was a waste of time. Waste of money, waste of time. So in this verse, it's talking about the soul, how the soul is always active. So whether we're awake, the soul is either in the dreaming state, or a wakeful state, or deep sleep. There's 3 stages: wakeful, sleeping, and deep sleep. But in either case, the soul is always active. The body may not be active, but the soul is active. Just like when we're awake, we're moving around. When we're sleeping in the bed, we're not moving, but we're dreaming, and dreaming means that the soul is present in the body, and we're active. Prabhupada was on a morning walk. He asked the devotees about this. Why people have bad dreams? And he said because the soul is present in the body. If the soul is not there, then there's no question of activity or of any movement of the body, either awake or dreaming. So in this way, the spirit soul is always active, and Prabhupada would say it's very difficult not to be active. Sometimes in school, if a child misbehaves, they tell him he has to go stand in the corner. Prabhupada called this a stand-up punishment. So very difficult. Childs always want to be active. They don't like to stay in one place very long. So this is this also applies to everyone. Everyone wants to be active. We don't like to be inactive. But you have a choice. It's like we have our free will to choose to act in Krishna consciousness and do good activities, or to, like it says here, to act under the illusory energy and do work which is binding. There's 2 kinds of work: the work that is liberating and work that is binding. So, material world, most of the population was only interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, or only interested in economic development and sense gratification. They may perform some religious, ritualistic ceremonies, but they don't even most people don't even know anything about moksha or liberation. And even though one may be liberated, it says, Arukachena, one may rise up even to the Brahman effulgence, but because that is also not a permanent situation, because no activity there. So the soul, because he doesn't take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, he has to come back to the material world and open hospitals and schools. And this is the Mayavadis, or impersonalists. They have they want to merge or become one with the Brahman. But this is a temporary, impermanent situation. And it's that the happiness that one derives from Brahman realization is like a drop of water in the desert, or it's like the water in the calf's hoofprint compared to devotional service, which is 10 million times more, it's much more pleasant, much more ananda or bliss you get from devotional service is 10 million times more than the Mayavadis get from the water in the calf's hoofprint. So the whole world is going on misguided, misdirected civilization. Everyone is under the impression that life is simply meant to work hard, make money, and enjoy your senses to the fullest extent. And because you're just a combination of chemicals, and there's nothing after death. This is what most people believe, that there's nothing after death, so you're not accountable for your activities. So you can do anything you want in this life and enjoy as much as possible, and that at the end of life that you're finished. But we know that's not true, because the karma is there. Everyone has to take birth again. As soon as you die, you're sure to take birth again. As soon as you take birth again, you're sure to die. With every rising and setting of the sun, one's duration of life is being taken away. And except for those who are hearing about the all-good personality of Godhead, the glories of the Lord. So the devotees are getting a spiritual body and going back to Godhead, where the karmis are going to have to take another body in the cycle of 8,400,000 species. There's 8,400,000 species of living entities, and of those, only 400,000 are actually human species, and of that, 20% it may be considered a civilized human being. So the 400,000 human beings, that includes the demigods. And the living entities are only in the human form of life, and can you put an end to this cycle of birth and death? And the demigods are praying in Srimad Bhagavatam, residents of Jambu Dweep and other planets, that they can take birth on the Earth planet. Because in the upper planetary system, their demigods are semi-devotees, but there's too much enjoyment there for them to take the pure devotional service. Like we're hearing in Bhagavatam class about Indra, how he's always getting himself in trouble, and how he disrespected his spiritual master, how he had a suffer reaction. 3 times he committed sinful activities, he was falsely proud. So the demigods are enjoying immense pleasure for millions of years, but it's only temporary. And when their karma runs out, they have to come back to the Earth planet. So they don't get out of the cycle of repeated birth and death. Hellish planets, there's too much suffering. But only on the Earth planet is the suffering not so great, and enjoyment is not so great. So therefore, one can take to devotional service. So this verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, If someone takes the Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastra, or execute the devotional service properly, even though he may fall down from the standard, there's no loss or evil for him. Krishna says there's no loss or diminution. Whatever you do in devotional service, you get your spiritual bank account. As you put so much money in the bank, if you come in this world, the living entity comes in this world with nothing, and you leave this world, you can't take anything with you. But if your spiritual bank account goes with you. And also, if you commit offenses, if you commit Vaishnava aparad, or if you let your cell phone ring during class, you have to come back again. It's like Daksha in the fourth canto. Daksha offended Lord Shiva, committed Vaishnava aparad. And even in the sixth canto, Daksha is still accountable, hadn't been excused from that offense. And again, he offended Narada Muni. So this karma goes with you. Your good karma goes with you, and your bad karma goes with you. So the living entity if you take the devotional service, and you don't commit Vaishnava aparad, then that devotional service will go with you. And your next life, you have your spiritual bank account, whether you start at 1 or 5 or 10, you'll pick it up again in your next life. That's why it says Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. Those who are fortunate from past life Sakriti, they can take the Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is available for everyone, but only those who are pious souls or have some Sakriti from past life are interested in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we're going out, these boys go out to distribute books to people, but they say, I don't have no time, I'm not interested in spiritual life. They say, I don't have time, but what they're doing with their time. They're spending all their time watching television, going to movies, going to nightclubs, doing useless things. But they say, we don't have time. Or they say they're not interested. So they don't have the Sakriti to even take the time to even consider there may be a different way of life or something better than what they have. But this one story, one lady was driving in her car, and she came to the temple in Denver, and the devotees were doing Harinam on the street next to the temple. And she was so impressed by seeing how bright the devotees were, how ecstatic the devotees were. She wanted to get out of her car right there and come to the temple. But she was in traffic, she couldn't do that. But when she went to her house, she looked up the address of the temple, and she started going to the temple, became a devotee. So that lady had some past life Sakriti. She became fortunate, and she was attracted to the devotees, the Harinam party. So in this way, people take the Krishna consciousness by their good Sakriti. Here it says that one may practice Krishna consciousness even if they fall down. There's no loss. The Bible says, if one gains the whole world but loses his soul, what is the gain? So if one doesn't act for the benefit of the soul, there's no gain. But this purport to this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada cites example Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj gave up his kingdom, gave up everything, renounced everything, was on the level of Bhava, but he became attached to a deer. And because of that, when he died, he was thinking of the deer, and he had to take birth as a deer. So this was his prarabdha karma, his karma from his past life. But this was auspicious karma, because by taking the body of a deer, he didn't forget his last life. And in his next life, he became Jabharat, and he became fully Krishna conscious. So it was a stepping stone. It was helpful to him in his Krishna consciousness. Same with Chitraketu. He had been given a spaceship, an airplane, which was like a city. So he was flying all over the universe, and he saw Lord Shiva was sitting with his wife Parvati on his lap in the assembly of many sages. So this seems like an immoral activity. Men usually don't sit with their wife in public. So Chitraketu spoke out of amazement that how is it that Lord Shiva is the best of all Vaishnavas, the best of all devotees, and he's doing something that seems like it's immoral. But he was not criticizing Lord Shiva. He was just speaking out of amazement. But Mother Parvati, the wife of Lord Shiva, she didn't understand this. She cursed Chitraketu to become a demon. So Chitraketu, being a great devotee, he accepted the curse as the will of Providence. And he came down from his airplane, and he bowed down to Mother Parvati, begged forgiveness, and said, yes, what you said is very good. I accept the curse. So he became the demon Vrikashura, and he became the enemy of Indra, and he fought with Indra, then Indra killed him, and he went back to Godhead. And the same thing with Ajamil. Ajamil was a devoted, born in a Brahmin family, very devoted Brahmin. He was very pure soul, worshipped Lord Narayan in his youth. But by chance, when his father asked him to go bring some flowers for the puja, he saw a Sudrani, enjoying in public nefarious activities, which wasn't done at that time, but now it's a common affair, common thing to see men and women together in public. So Ajamil became attracted to the prostitute, and he eventually married her. He kicked out his parents. He kicked out he had a beautiful wife and a nice chaste wife. He kicked everyone out, and he served the prostitute and committed all sinful activities for his whole life till he was 88 years old. And he had 10 children, and the last child he named Narayan. So he was very attached to his last child, and he was always calling Narayan, 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 come and eat, Narayan, come and sit, Narayan, go take rest. This way, he was always calling the name of Narayan. And then at the time of death, when the Yamadutas came to take him to Yamaraj, Vishnudutas came, because he had called the name of Narayan, or the name of Krishna. He was free from all his sinful activities. And this was possible because he had been a devotee and worshipped Narayan in his childhood. So because of that, Prabhupada karma was auspicious karma that saved him from going to Yamaraj. So in this way, devotional service is beneficial for us, whether we stay in devotional service or whatever we do in devotional service. It will go with you in your next life. And so we should have faith and stay in Krishna consciousness and make our human life successful. The next verse, but here it says, therefore, sannyas. Taking of sannyas is for purification, to help one reach the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness. Nate vidu sarvagatim hi Vishnu. So that's the goal of Krishna consciousness, to go back home, back to Godhead. But even if we don't succeed in this life, we're not losing anything. The parents of the disciples, they are very unhappy, for the most part, when they see their child decide to become a devotee. when they see that the child is no longer interested in sex life, no longer interested in intoxication, no longer interested in gambling, and no longer interested in eating meat, fish, or eggs. So they say that the parents are very upset. They say, why you can't be normal like everyone else? You were a nice womanizer, you were a nice drug addict, you were a nice meat eater. Now look at you now. You're not doing any of these things. What's wrong with you? So the parents become very upset that we're not doing the same thing that everyone else in the world is doing. But so, gradually, if we preach to them and give them prasadam, sometimes they'll come around and start to appreciate Krishna consciousness is the better alternative. So we have the alternative to stay in the material world and perform sinful activities and then have to suffer at the time of death and take birth again, or to perform Krishna consciousness and get a better destination. Srimad Bhagavatam says that it's a duty of everyone in human form of life to make sure that his consciousness is a higher, gets a higher consciousness in his next life. If he doesn't go back to Godhead, but he can again take again to Krishna consciousness and perfect his life. So people don't realize this. They see us, we do the same activities as everyone else, but we're not doing these activities for our sense gratification. We're doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. So we're driving cars, we're cooking for Krishna, we're cleaning the temple, we're doing all these things, but Nirbandhan Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchite, everything's for the service of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna, not for our sense gratification. So as the surrendered souls, the more we surrender to Krishna, the more we are happy in Krishna consciousness. So we should take the Krishna consciousness, chant 16 rounds every day of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Try to avoid the offenses, 10 offenses in the holy name, and follow 4 regulated principles, whether one's a brahmachari, a grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas. Everyone has to follow these 4 regulated principles. Even a householder, Krishna says on the Bhagavad-Gita, time, sex, life, according to religious principles. That means a householder can have sex once a month at the right time to get a Krishna-conscious child and not otherwise. So brahmacharis and sannyasis and vanaprastha don't associate with women, don't have anything to do with sex life. It says one should always remain Krishna, does not fall down in any circumstance. One who remains celibate his whole life, then Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, will come to the level of Brahman. Brahma Bhuta Prashanama Nasoshiti Nakanchati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Levate Param. So this is the beginning of spiritual life, when one realizes we're not this body, and we come to the level, come to Brahman, or they come to understand that I'm an eternal spirit soul, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. So today's also the appearance of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur was is the expansion of Narada Muni. And he has many pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. So Srivas Thakur was a surrendered soul. And Lord Chaitanya went to his house. He said, Srivas, you don't go out begging, you don't collect alms, how do you support your family? So Srivas clapped his hands 3 times. So Lord Chaitanya said, what does that mean, Srivas? He says, if 3 days nothing comes, no food comes, then I'll simply tie a rope around my neck and put a rock on it and drown myself in the Ganges. So Lord Chaitanya said to Srivas, well, Srivas, even if the goddess of fortune has to go out begging, you will never be in want of anything. No one in your house will ever be in want of anything. So Srivas Thakur also kept Lord Nityananda in his house and took care of Lord Nityananda. And Lord Chaitanya said, Srivas, why are you keeping this madman, Lord Nityananda, in your house? And Srivas said, even if Lord Nityananda, because we find him in a liquor shop or marries a low-class woman, we'll never give up the company of Lord Nityananda. Because he understood that Lord Nityananda was the brother of Lord Chaitanya, the eternal Nitya, eternal Supreme Personality Godhead, or the expansion of Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram. So in this way, we can take advantage of Krishna consciousness. The books, Srila Prabhupada has given us so many books to read. We should read all of Prabhupada's books. We should be active. It's the symptoms. Someone on the level of bhava, he doesn't like to waste his time. He always wants to be active. And Prabhupada had to take rest for a couple hours in the afternoon. He said, now I'm going to waste my time. So, of course, we have to rest the body. So 6-7 hours, that is recommended. More than 6 hours is the more ignorance. We have to rest the body. We have to eat something. These things we have to do, but we should minimize our eating and sleeping only for what is necessary for Krishna consciousness. These kind of activities are bewildering to the materialists, that we don't sleep so much, that we don't eat so much, and we're chanting and dancing, and we're not working hard. They say, why don't you, why are you out here begging in the street? Why don't you get a job and work hard and suffer like us? Some people will have to work 2 jobs just to make enough money to support their families. So we say, well, why don't you just come and join us instead of working hard day and night? Come and join us and live a life chanting, dancing, and be happy. They asked Prabhupada, what do you do for recreation? He said, we simply chant and dance and take prasadam. This is our recreation. And also, we do book distribution. Because of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls, we want to give everyone an opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness and not misuse their human form of life. Cat and dog civilization. We're trying to make people understand the value of human form of life so that they will not waste their life and have to take birth again in the lower species. This is called the greatest type of fear, that one will have to again go back into the animal species of life. And from the animal species, gradually evolve back to human species. So we don't accept the fact that the life is just a product, combination of chemicals. We don't accept the fact that they went to the moon, and we don't accept Darwin's theory that man evolved from monkeys. There's so many monkeys in Vrindavan. I've been here for a while, for a long time, and I haven't seen one man come from a monkey. So I'm waiting for a man to come from a monkey, if that's a fact. So we know that the forms are there, the different forms are there, but the soul, it's one thing. Darwin didn't know anything about the soul, so his theory can never be accepted as science or truth. So in this way, we're always active in Krishna consciousness. Whatever activities we're doing, we should do it with great care and attention. There's 64 items in devotional service, 64 limbs of devotional service. Give it in nectar devotion. We should chant Hare Krishna, associate with devotees, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, worship the deities, and live in a holy place, either in Mathura or Navadvip or Jagannath Puri, or in a temple somewhere in the world. In this way, we'll make our lives successful. So our time is up. Anybody have any comments or questions?
You're talking about the moon mission and all that. The United States has sent up a rocket that went to Mars, and they unleash the space rover on Mars, taking pictures and sending it back to, showing this on television and taking pictures on TV and newspapers. And somebody took a magnifying glass to one of the pictures, and they saw something that looks like a rodent.
Like a what?
A rodent. So there was an article in the paper that said, it seems that there's a mouse infestation on Mars.
What was that, a road?
Oh, it was all over the
rodent.
media in America. There was
Rodent.
it was on
Like a
TV,
mouse.
everything. And
Oh.
so they took a magnifying glass to the pictures that they were sending up, and it was like, it looks like a mouse. And so they were like, everybody's going to see there's a mouse problem on Mars, man. It's like, what the hell? You look on the internet, mouse on Mars, you might be able to see it. I did it a while ago, I saw it.
Yeah,
So it's just, it sounds a little phony to me,
maybe
The Mars thing.
get a mouse body on Mars. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, there's a microphone there. Is it working?
Thank you for the nice class. I was just wondering, in the beginning of the class, you were saying that
Speak in the microphone.
in the beginning of the class, you were saying that people don't believe in the soul because you cannot see the soul, but then you can counter-argue by saying, well, you can't see the mind or the intelligence, but do they exist? But someone can also argue that, the function of the mind and the intelligence are just different functionings of the brain and all these things, so how can you kind of argue that?
Well, that's also a misconception. Because when Daksha offended Lord Shiva, they cut off his head. And then they wanted to give him back his head. They couldn't find a head, so they gave him a goat's head. But he didn't become a goat. He still had the same consciousness, because the consciousness is in the heart, in the heart region, in the heart. Mind, intelligence, and ego is in the heart. It's not in the head. Although the brain, you can't live without a brain, but you can live with the heart is where the symptom of the soul is the consciousness comes from the heart, not from the brain. So life comes from the heart, and when the heart is no longer functioning, then the person dies. That is death, and the soul leaves the body. Does that answer your question? Yeah, so it's a misconception. It's not in your, although the function, it seems like the brain is functioning, but it's all comes from the heart. All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.
Doesn't Prabhupada say in one purport that even the material scientists believe that all the energy comes from the heart?
Yeah.
But is that referring to just that from there all the pumping?
Yeah, they say the mechanics of the heart. From the heart, oxygen supplied to the body. This oxygen supplies the body, but they don't know about the soul. They think it's mechanical. But which book do you distribute the most?
Probably Bhagavad-Gita.
Oh, you do.
Or JSD, Journey of Self-Discovery. I do that a lot.
Yeah. And life comes from life?
Not so much.
Self-discovery, science of self,
Yeah.
science of self-realization. Yeah, those kind of books make devotees easier to understand.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? You have Harinam, and you go do book distribution at night and do Harinam in daytime, and what are you doing in daytime?
We distribute books in the daytime.
You go to shopping centers or something?
Mainly colleges,
Colleges.
universities.
They don't kick you out?
Well, we go undercover. So we dress
Still-
as students.
But they still kick you out
They do kick us out sometimes.
if you don't have a permit. Most of the time you do in pants and shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time we get away.
Yeah. But yeah, Prabhupada said it was okay. You can do that. So it's easier to approach people.
Yeah.
But nowadays it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it really
I know you
does.
can go Dodi Kuta anywhere. Doesn't make any difference. But if you want to go on, you don't want to get kicked out. You get kicked out quicker if you go to Dodi.
Yeah.
If you don't have a permit, they don't listen to any reason. We're doing something good, you know. Can't understand we're doing something good. They just think we're, so, proselytizing.